everybody. I'm really sorry to interrupt the vibes. I know we were really all into the music, and it is a fantastic music playlist because it was created by Sam Devoda. I want to welcome you to the Penguin Teen Social. We are virtual for the second year in a row, which means you don't have to do anything but listen to us, for which I apologize for. I hope you have treats that you like. We're going to go through some of our books that are coming out in the fall. We're going to go through some of our books that are coming out in the summer. We have the chat function, which it seems like all of you know how to use, which is great. If you have something you want to ask us specifically, a question about one of the titles, you can put that in the Q&A box and we'll get to that as soon as we can. This is a webinar, so you will remain muted and your cameras will be off. The other thing I wanted to say is we are recording this and we will be putting it up on YouTube eventually, which is really more of a reminder to me to keep it clean and professional. I'm sure you'll all be fine. If you want to go to the next slide, please. So this is who we are. Evan Monday, who runs our wonderful trivia events, he's behind the scenes, but he is here today helping us out. Sam Devoda will be here with me presenting lots and lots of titles. I know you're all very familiar with her. And my name is Vicki Van Sickle. We are 3/4 of the marketing and publicity team at Penguin Random House. And Sylvia Chan is here as well. She's going to be playing along and cheering us on from the sidelines. She also made this amazing PowerPoint. So kudos to Sylvia. Next slide. So we're also doing special guests trivia. So we know that we have some return customers here and you are very familiar with our YA teen trivia. So we're gonna have a few questions in here. For those of you who've never done trivia before, don't worry, it's very easy, it's very fun. And if you like it, you may wanna come back to one of our full trivia events later on this year. I'm gonna go off video now and we're gonna start the Penguin 10.
Yeah, before we kick it off, I just wanted to let you guys know, first of all, hi, I'm Sam. I run the behind the scenes stuff on all the Penguin Teen Social Canada, Penguin Teen Canada social media. I've been a little bit distracted this whole time just because I've been watching all your tweets and IG stories come in, which is always one of my favorite parts, is just seeing all these faces and names that I know and love. So thank you for joining us today. Just a quick note about the trivia. So we have 3 special author guests. They've all pre-recorded videos for us where they talk a little bit about their books, and they also give us 2 trivia questions. We'll also have the trivia questions up on a separate slide in case you need to see them again. And then we'll have a form that Evan will helpfully drop in the chat for you a little bit later, where you could fill out your answers. We're trusting you not to look up the answers in between all these videos. And the winner, who will be randomly chosen, will win 3 of their most anticipated titles from our Penguin 10 list. So for those of you who've been following us for a while, you know we do the Penguin 10 every year. It's our top 10 must-read titles of the fall. I think there's a little bit of something for everyone. We've got fantasy, we've got contemporary, we've got some really, really exciting things coming up. So Evan, if you want to skip to our next slide, we're going to kick it off with one of our most anticipated titles, Iron Widow by Shiron Zhao. I'm sure you've seen it all over social media. They have a huge presence. They did an incredible cover reveal a couple of weeks ago, and I'm personally stoked for it. It's Pacific Rim meets The Handmaid's Tale, which, I mean, why wouldn't I read something like that? It sounds incredible. Shiron has an amazing writing style, is a very dynamic presenter. So if we want to skip ahead a slide, there they are in their cow costume, probably the best author photo I've ever seen, honestly. And if we go one more, then Shiron will actually give us a little bit of a description of Iron Widow and your first 2 trivia questions.
Hello, I'm Shiron Zhao, the author of Iron Widow, a YA science fantasy novel releasing September 21st. Iron Widow is a Pacific Rim meets The Handmaid's Tale reimagining of the rise of Wu Zetian, the only female emperor in Chinese history. I like to describe it as 400 pages of female rage, conducted through giant mechas inspired by mythical creatures from East Asian mythology. It blends tropes from sci-fi and fantasy, with the science part being derived from concepts in traditional Chinese medicine. For example, the pilots connect to their mechas through acupuncture needles. This book is basically a wild blend of my love for anime and my love for Chinese harem dramas, because I simultaneously have the tastes of a 7-year-old Japanese boy and a 62-year-old Chinese auntie. And speaking of harem dramas, even though I use The Handmaid's Tale in my pitch because it's familiar to Western audiences, Chinese harem stories have actually been playing out the female dystopia angle for a long time. It's a very culturally specific genre in Chinese media. They take place in lavish imperial palaces where thousands of women must serve a single man, which is the ultimate male fantasy but a suffocating female nightmare. And so they tell the stories of women been trapped in this system who use every resource available to them to rise higher and survive. Empress Wu, my inspiration, personally survived 2 harems. She went from a concubine in charge of changing bedsheets to single-handedly ruling imperial China at its most prosperous and liberal peak. She defied all odds within this system designed to keep her down, and then rewrote its very rules to take command of it. Iron Widow reimagines her as a teenage peasant girl who grew up in a vastly different world, one inspired by various Chinese dynasties and also modern China. It's a world where humanity hides behind the Great Wall from massive alien invaders called Handans, and deploy equally massive mechas called chrysalises to fight them. These chrysalises must be piloted by a boy-girl pair, but while male pilots become legends and celebrities, the female pilots are treated as their disposable concubines, because they have a much higher chance of dying from the psychic link between pilots during battle. See, this is where the harem drama inspiration comes in. The story kicks off when Zetian enlists herself as a concubine to assassinate the male celebrity pilot who she believes killed her older sister. She ends up doing this through the battle link itself, which shakes her world because female pilots are not supposed to be able to kill male ones. She is then labeled an Iron Widow, and her society will rather her be executed, but since the army desperately needs pilots of her caliber, she is paired with the strongest male pilot alive, who is also controversial because he is technically a death row inmate. They expect him to tame her, but she is of course not going to let that work. She will leverage every advantage available to her to fend off the endless string of people who want her dead until she can find out the truth behind why the pilot system is so misogynist. Now, I have 2 giant robot related questions to ask you. First, guess the anime. Shinji, Rei, and Asuka are the 3 traumatized teens who operate the giant biological robots called Evas in the future city of Tokyo 3 in this wildly popular anime series. If you need the hint again, Shinji, Rei, and Asuka are the 3 traumatized teens who operate the giant biological robots called Evas in the future city of Tokyo 3 in this wildly popular anime series. Now, second question. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, the largest walking robot in the world is Tredino, a 50-meter-long robot weighing 11 tons that was created for a German play called Drakenstich. What mythical creature is this robot designed to look like? And again, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, the largest walking robot in the world is Tredino, a 50-meter-long robot weighing 11 tons that was created for a German play called Drakenstich. What mythical creature is this robot designed to look like? Thank you for playing and have a happy Penguin Teen Social.
All right, here are the questions again. I know some of you have already been sharing it in the chat, which is hilarious and totally my bad because I don't think I told you exactly what you have to do. Basically, keep the answers in your head, and there is a form that Evan shared, which Evan, if you don't mind sharing it again. Oh, Sylvia did, thank you. Then you can just fill out the form at the end of the night and send it in to us. So we'll keep this up for a little bit and let me know when everyone's good to continue on to the next slide. Yeah, I hope all of you were paying attention so that you know what the answer to that first trivia question was.
All right, so while you're writing it down in the form, I'm going to get started with our second Penguin 10 title, Both Sides Now. So before I dive too deeply into this wonderful new book, can we please take a second to bask in this soothing, summery delight of a cover? I'm obsessed with this palette, which feels like a breath of fresh air, which is apt as Peyton is a fresh new Canadian voice who I think you're just going to love. If you ever did Model UN, Reach for the Top, Student Council, or Debate, you are going to relate to overachiever Finch Kelly. Finch has his sights on a prestigious program at Georgetown University and is relying on the financial aid that will come with being a national debate champion. No pressure, right? To make matters more complicated, Finch has a major crush on his handsome, seemingly oblivious debate partner who is already very taken. This whip-smart YA rom-com featuring a trans character feels Netflix ready and belongs on a shelf next to Simon and the Hosapian Agenda, To All the Boys I've Loved Before, and Moxie. Even though it has the wit and effervescence of red, white, and royal blue, this book tackles big issues and ideas, from trans rights to university endowments to the ethics of debate itself, all coached within the oh-so-relatable and delightfully familiar coming-of-age story. Readers will appreciate the frank and open discussion of Finch's transition experience, both emotional and also physical. Toronto-based author Peyton is a freelance writer with bylines at Pitchfork, Billboard, and Vanity Fair. If you'd like to get a sense of his humor, I highly recommend an entertaining article he wrote entitled American Girl Dolls Ranked in Order of Gayness. On Twitter, I promised to comp each of my books to a Taylor Swift song, so apologies to non-Swifties. If this book was a Taylor Swift song, it would be You Need to Calm Down, partially because of the lover aesthetic here, but also because of the inclusive LGBTQ+ content and uplifting vibes. So this one is also me, and it's just about as different as the first title as could be. So Deep and Shallow Lies was the Southern Gothic YA novel of my dreams. I legitimately screamed when it was first presented at launch. Thank God we're virtual. Set on a remote island surrounded by a swampy bayou at the very tip of Louisiana, this book is steeped in atmosphere. Steamy summer afternoons, violent storms, ghosts, tarot, sweet tea, musical Southern accents. This book has everything you need. La Cachette is known as the psychic capital of the world, which is why Gray is having a hard time understanding how her best friend Delora could vanish into thin air without anyone knowing a thing. But as she digs into the night that Allura went missing, she begins to realize that everybody in town is hiding something. Her grandmother, her childhood crush, and even her late mother, whose secrets continue to call to Gray from beyond the grave. In a town where secrets lurk just below the surface and where a murderer is on the loose, nobody can be presumed innocent. And La Cachette's dark and shallow lies may just rip the town apart. The language and pacing in the book is both languid and pacey. It's easy to immerse yourself in the sensual, slightly supernatural world and just let it cast a spell. There's something here for thriller fans, readers of supernatural or ghost stories, or people who just love beautiful language. Think Wilder Girls, House of Hollow, or Laini Taylor's work. If this was a Taylor Swift song, it would be the spooky, dramatic, screaming ghost revenge ballad, My Tears Ricochet.
Okay, I'm just going to tell you all now, I did not comp all of my titles to Taylor Swift songs, partially because I'm not that familiar with her whole catalog, but also because I knew I wouldn't do it justice the way Vicky just did. I could comp it all to songs by my favorite band, but I don't know if the rest of you know who the main is. So we'll just go on from there. So Walking in Two Worlds by Wab Canoe is another one from our Canadian publishing program. It's about Bugs, who is a shy Indigenous girl living on the res, and her alter ego is a pretty big deal in a multiplayer video game universe. Then she meets Feng, who has recently moved from China to live on the res with his aunt after his online activity implies that he's developing extremist sympathies. Their worlds, both real and virtual, collide in many ways, and Bugs has to learn how to reconcile the different parts of her life. Walking in Two Worlds by politician and activist Wab Canoe is a virtual reality adventure for fans of Ready Player One with an Indigenous twist, and it will hook you immediately. Okay, so I know a bunch of you are K-pop fans, and while I'm no expert, I know like 4 BTS songs, maybe 5. As soon as our marketing and publicity manager Sylvia told me about Idol Gossip, I was obsessed. This debut from Alexandra Lee Young is about 17-year-old Alice, who, while at a karaoke booth in Seoul, impresses a talent scout. The scout offers Alice a spot at their Star Academy, including a position in an up-and-coming K-pop group. Alice could be on her way to stardom, but there's an influencer and a whole bunch of anti-fans who are set on destroying her career before it can even start. Idol Gossip reminds us to dream big and stay true to ourselves, and I'm so excited to get to know Alice this fall, and obviously make a K-pop playlist to go along with it.
So something people may not know about me is that I actually have my master's thesis in children's literature, and specifically in verse novels for children. So I could not be more excited that verse novels are making a comeback. If you ask me, I would tell you that they never truly left, but recent mega hits like the Prince Award-winning The Poet X and the rise of Instagram poets have really given this vibrant literary form a lift. I think verse novels meet a variety of readers' needs. The space on the page and the mental break of the page turn makes it ideal for reluctant readers who can be intimidated by the size of a book or a lot of words on the page, but the content is still at their maturity level. And for avid readers, the poetic language, structure, and specificity of voice is really appealing. So in this book, Sarai is a first-generation Puerto Rican 8th grader who can see the truth, pain, and beauty of the world both inside and outside her Bushwick apartment. Together with her older sister Estrella, she navigates this strain of family traumas and the systemic pressures of toxic masculinity and housing insecurity in a rapidly gentrifying Brooklyn. Sarai questions the society around her, her Puerto Rican identity, and the life she lives with a determination and an open heart, learning to celebrate herself in a way that she has been denied. If this was a Taylor Swift song, it would be a Lin-Manuel Miranda remix of Welcome to New York. Author Elizabeth Velasquez is a Puerto Rican writer born in Bushwick, Brooklyn, so she grew up in the place where she set this book. She's an established and award-winning slam poet who's been featured on NPR and the Huffington Post. I found her prose visceral. It's searing, rhythmic, and brings you into the brain and heart of her remarkable heroine. This is a heavier but ultimately redemptive read, and most exciting. I think it will inspire many teens to find their own voice.
Okay, for something totally different. So I've said this probably at every single event we've ever done, but I'm not a huge fantasy fan. It has to be something really special and really striking for me to actually pick it up and get into it. And so with something like Beasts of Prey, I can totally see that happening. When it was first announced, my Twitter timeline was flooded with the news, and for good reason. Ayana Gray's much anticipated debut and series opener is about two Black teenagers who must strike an alliance to hunt down the creature menacing their home and uncover secrets along the way. Kofi has always had to keep her magic under wraps, but when she stumbles across Akon during his hunt for the vicious Shaitani, their lives are turned upside down. Ekon is in training to become a warrior, but now that Kofi is in the picture and her powers seem to be able to ward off the Shaitani, they must work together to hunt the beast down before it hunts them. With a breathtaking premise, a gorgeous cover, and an exciting new YA voice, Beasts of Prey should definitely be on your radar. Before Takeoff was pitched to me as The Sun is Also a Star meets Jumanji, which might actually be the greatest comparison I've ever heard, and I can't wait for everybody to get into it. James and Michelle, two very different teens, are stranded in the Atlanta airport on a layover, and are both drawn to a mysterious flashing green light, which they soon learn is a button. A button that, once pressed, causes all sorts of strange, impossible things to happen in the airport. Snowstorms inside Terminal B, a jungle in Terminal C. No one can find a way in or out of the airport, and it's up to James and Michelle to team up and save their families and themselves. I can't wait. I assume they save themselves, but it's going to be a wild ride to figure out how they do it. And now for something totally different. So the last two were very much fantasy sci-fi. This one is for all my contemporary fans out there. The Heartbreak Bakery by A.R. Capetta. Sid, who does not use pronouns, has always dealt with big things by baking. Dealing with a breakup and working at a queer bakery in Austin, Sid begins baking brownies. But then every couple who eats a brownie breaks up, including the bakery owners. Sid is convinced there's something magical going on with the brownies, but no one else is ready to believe in that power, except for the cute bike delivery person, Harley, who thinks Sid can bake up a solution too. Combining magic, romance, and baking, the Heartbreak Bakery is going to make you feel all the things, including hunger. And now for our second author guest and final Penguin 10 title of 2021, Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen. I'm obsessed with this cover, and really, who doesn't love a book about mermaids, especially when it's being pitched by an author with an English accent. So Evan, if you want to skip ahead a slide or two. I think one more. Thank you. Here's Natasha to talk about her book and give you two more trivia questions.
I'm the author of Skin of the Sea, which is out November 9th, 2021. Skin of the Sea is a story of mermaids, courage and magic, and was born from my obsession with mermaids and my passion for West African history. I was inspired to write Skin of the Sea after seeing images of black mermaids a few years ago. I already knew about Mami Wata and Yamoja, but seeing those images was just even more powerful. I wanted to tell a story of the different type of mermaids, of the origins of Black mermaids, and researching and reading more about the stories that have spread across the diaspora of how Yamoja or Mamiwata or water spirits followed the first enslaved to offer them comfort, or to wreck the ships, or to help the souls of those who passed in the sea back home. It was really important to me to show the depth and knowledge and culture of West African history also. So this book is a blend of all of that. You should check it out if you want to learn and explore a different world and a different version of mermaids. And if you want to find out more about mythological creatures that you may not have before, such as the Ninki Nanka, the Boltungan, which are were hyenas, Senegalese fairies, it has all of that and more actually, but I won't spoil too much. There are 2 trivia questions. The first one is, the logo of this restaurant chain is not a mermaid, but a siren, as can be seen from her 2 tails. The nautical icon is a good fit for the company, which took its name from a Moby Dick character when it was founded in 1971. And I'll just repeat that. The logo of this restaurant chain is not a mermaid, as typically believed, but a siren, as can be seen from her 2 tails. The nautical icon is a good fit for the company, which took its name from a Moby Dick character and was founded in 1971. And the second question is, the harbour of what European city features a bronze statue of a mermaid? This city is also where the Little Mermaid author Hans Christian Andersen lived in or near for most of his life. And that is, again, the harbour of what European city features a bronze statue of a mermaid? This city is also where the Little Mermaid author Hans Christian Andersen lived in or near for most of his life. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you have a happy Penguin Teen Social. Bye.
I love her accent so much. Evan, if you go to the next slide, we'll have the questions up there for a little bit in case you need to take a look at them again. Did anyone need a refresher on how we're playing the trivia? Just in case. I see Caitlin's audio had dropped out a little bit. Are we all good? All right, everybody ready? Okay, and now I will take it to Vicky to talk a little bit about summer reading.
So even though we're talking about our fall 10 must-read titles, we would be remiss if we did not talk about summer reading. I feel that summer reading is going to be more important this year than ever, given the state of the world, particularly the state of Canada. So we've picked a number of titles. Sam and I are going to go through them really quickly just to give you a sense of what we're reading, what you think you'll like to read. For those of you who work with teens, what we think is really going to be their jams. If we go to the next slide. So I'm going to start with Tell Me When You Feel Something. So we'll go back one more, Evan. Thank you. So whenever a new thriller is launched, I am the first to volunteer as tribute to check it out. So I was thrilled, pun intended, and the only one I will make this presentation, when Canadian author Vicky Grant submitted Tell Me When You Feel Something, which, by the way, perfect title. This Canadian thriller is perhaps best described as Grey's Anatomy meets Karen McManus, featuring a group of teens who work as simulated patients at a local med school. As high school jobs go, this one seems a cut above the rest, until one of the simulated patients ends up in a coma. The illusion starts to wear thin, and it turns out that nothing is what it seems, and everyone has something to hide. This is the perfect read for fans of Karen McManus and Holly Jackson. The multiple perspective narration keeps you guessing and makes for very compulsive reading. This is one of those just one more chapter books that you end up finishing way too late and are then too freaked out to go to sleep. Vicky is often praised for her dry sense of humor and witty dialogue, which she puts to good use here in this wholly satisfying read. This isn't just a thriller, this is also a story about consent, bias, power dynamics, drug use, social media, friendship, first love, and much more. For the Swifties out there, this is 80% I did something bad and 20% no body, no crime. For Tremendous Things, which is basically the opposite of Tell Me When You Feel Something, but also by a Canadian author. This is by Susan Nielsen, is one of Canada's funniest living writers. She does not shy away from body humor, and in fact, the book opens with the main character, Wilbur, writing a letter to his penis, who he calls Jeremiah. The agony and the grossness of adolescence, the smells, the fluids, the uncontrollable body parts, the hair, all of this is here. This is one of the reasons kids love her. She is a chronicler of real feelings, real life, real experiences, and a champion of the underdog. Tremendous Things takes place in Wilbur's grade 9 year. When not being humiliated, he's mostly ignored and spends most of his time playing triangle in band and hanging out at an aquafit-style class with his elderly neighbor. But Wilbur decides he wants to make a change when he falls in love with the French exchange student who comes to stay with him. Charlie is tall, chic, kind, and burps with abandon. What more can you want in a woman? But when she admits that she likes Wilbur as a brother, Wilbur enlists his best friend Alex and his boyfriend Fabrizio to give him a Queer Eye-style life makeover so that he goes to Paris later that year. Charlie will immediately fall in love with him, the new improved Wilbur. So I think makeover and transformation tropes are a classic YA staple, and I love that this focuses on a male character instead of the nerdy girl who takes off her glasses and becomes prom queen trope. This isn't a superficial or mean-spirited intervention. Wilbur's friends want him to be happy, healthy, self-confident, and fully live his truth instead of making himself small and invisible. The book features a diverse cast. Wilbur lives in Toronto's Kensington Market. He has lesbian moms, a gay best friend, and I love that this focuses on the beginning or younger end of high school. So much YA is about senior year and cross-marketed to adults, but Susan writes for actual teenagers and respects and understands this audience, which is why she is beloved. If this was a Taylor Swift song, it would be the classic, upbeat, never fails to make you smile, Shake It Off. And I can totally picture Wilbur in the video.
Amazing, Vicky. I love it. That might be my favorite comparison so far. Now we have our final author guest, E.K. Johnston. We love any chance to get her involved in anything we're doing, and she gamely provided us with a short pitch of Aetherbound, plus your final 2 trivia questions. Evan, take it away.
Hello, my name is E.K. Johnston, and I'm the author of Aetherbound, which will be out on May 25th. Aetherbound is the story of Pent Harland, a girl born on a generation ship where she is undervalued, starved, and generally not very well taken care of. Eventually, she runs into a space station and 2 boys there who work with her to come up with a very mutual arrangement. Of course, everything gets complicated immediately. And, there's a rebellion involved and some evil empire types and, a bad family, which is very difficult to shake. If you want to check out a book about found family, about girls coming into their power and finally getting enough to eat, and frankly, if you like cheese, you'll probably like Aetherbound. The International Space Station, launched in 1998, is the only space station currently orbiting the Earth. It is a joint venture of 5 agencies, those of the United States, the European Union, Canada, Russia, and what Asian country? The International Space Station, launched in 1998, is the only space station currently orbiting the Earth. It is a joint venture of 5 space agencies, those of the United States, the European Union, Canada, Russia, and what other Asian country? The Death Star, in its first test in the original 1977 Star Wars movie, ably destroyed an entire planet called Alderaan, which also happened to be the home planet of what character, portrayed by the daughter of actress Debbie Reynolds? The Death Star, in its first test in the original 1977 Star Wars movie, ably destroyed an entire planet called Alderaan, which also happened to be the home planet of what character, portrayed by the daughter of actress Debbie Reynolds? Thank you guys so much for coming to the Penguin Teen Social. I hope you have an awesome time.
Okay, I practiced saying I still can't say it. I practiced saying the title of this book so many times, and I think I still messed it up. But thank you, Kate, for popping into the chat and letting me know I could say it either way. Here are the trivia questions again. We'll leave it up for a little bit in case you need to catch up on it.
Also, while you're looking at them, I just wanted to say that E.K. Johnston said that if her book was a Taylor Swift song, that it would be Lover. So I know that you're all keeping track and making a playlist. So this one is Lover.
All right, everybody good? Okay, so our next summer reading is Rising Like a Storm. Last year, Tanaz Bathana released the first in a fantasy duology, Hunted by the Sky, and Rising Like a Storm is a thrilling conclusion. So I know I already said earlier that I'm not super into fantasy, but I really, really loved this one. I don't want to give away too many details in case you haven't read Hunted by the Sky yet, but I highly recommend it. The books have all the best parts of traditional fantasy stories. You got a chosen one, a prophecy, a romance with someone from the wrong side of the tracks. But all of this has a South Asian flair and a surprising amount of bloodshed. Read this duology once you're done watching Shadow and Bone for the 6th time. And keep an eye out for a virtual launch this summer, which will include Tanaz in conversation with our other bloggers, Serena and Sasha, in celebration of Sisters of the Snake. Sorry, Yash. I just saw her pop up in the chat. She told me that she's watched it 5 times. I haven't even watched it fully 1 time yet, but let me know how everyone's feeling about Shadow and Bone in the chat, and I'll let Vicky take it away for this next one.
All right, so I hate to compete with Shadow and Bone talk, although I will say, confession, I've never actually read any of the books in that series. I know, stop screaming at me. I have them on my table, and I am going to watch it. Sorry, everyone. So for something very, very different, I'm going to talk about The Great Godin. So one of my all-time favorite YA novels is How I Live Now, which was a breakout book for British/American author Meg Rossoff and became a slightly less exciting movie with the very excellent Saoirse Ronan. Please don't tweet that. In fact, when I'm faced with my snobby literary friends who don't read YA, How I Live Now is one of the books that I recommend to them, and without fail, they return completely redeemed and ask to read more YA. So I was super pumped to learn that we had the opportunity to publish Meg on our Canadian list. Although this book is very, very different, it totally delivers. So one of my favorite subgenres is The Summer It All Changed, and this is a perfect example of that kind of book. It also features a large, eccentric English family with slightly negligent, often drunk parents, and distinct and memorable gaggle of siblings and friends. It has the hazy, heady atmosphere of Call Me By Your Name and the captivating, unreliable narration of TikTok's favorite book, We Were Liars. The book has been described as seductive, elegant, dreamy, sun-drenched, intoxicating, which are all of my favorite adjectives, and perhaps the highest of praise, a, quote, rapture to read. If audio is your jam, or you're a fan of the hot priest / Sherlock's Andrew Scott, you are going to want to check out the audiobook, which he narrates, a fact that I discovered on Twitter via Michelle Lee, who says there is no good news on Twitter. Also, this marks the 2nd year in a row that I've mentioned Andrew Scott, which is crazy because I'm really more of a John Watson girl. Those of you making a playlist, this one is akin to Folklore's Ode to Thwarted Summer Love, August.
I'm not going to lie, I'm also an Andrew Scott fan, so even though I've read The Great Godin, I'm absolutely going to listen to the audiobook. But for something a little bit different, I can't tell you how stoked I was when I found out there was a new Nicola Yoon book on the horizon. I found out about a week before everybody else did, and I was dying the entire time, waiting for it to be officially announced so that I could scream about it with all my friends. It's been a while since The Sun Is Also a Star came out, and Instructions for Dancing is the perfect comeback. Evie doesn't believe in love, especially once she starts having visions of heartbreak every time she sees a new couple. But then she starts taking a dance class alongside a boy named X, a boy whose philosophy is to say yes to everything, including entering a dance competition with Evie right after they meet. Evie doesn't think she'll get out of this relationship unscathed, but she has to decide if love is really worth the risk. Swoony, romantic, and probably likely to bring a tear to your eye, Instructions for Dancing is Nicola Yoon at her finest. Something else a little bit different, All Our Hidden Gifts by Caroline O'Donoghue. Honestly, this one is super up Vicky's alley, and it looks like the perfect blend of magic, horror, and mystery, all set in a small Irish town. So, I mean, again, if Andrew Scott wants to do the audiobook for this too, I wouldn't be opposed. When Maeve finds a pack of tarot cards during her in-school suspension, the other girls flock to her for readings. Maeve's former friend Lily draws the housekeeper card, and when the 2 girls argue over it, Maeve wishes that Lily would disappear. So imagine her surprise when she finds out the next day that Lily has vanished without a trace. Maeve and Ro, Lily's gender-fluid sibling, must now search for clues to find Lily, even if it means finding the terrifying housekeeper herself. Another fantasy that I'm actually looking forward to is Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. I loved her last fantasy duology, which started with Spin the Dawn, and Six Crimson Cranes looks just as good. Inspired by the story of the wild swans, as well as East Asian folklore, this is the story of a princess named Shiori who has forbidden magic running through her veins. When she accidentally loses control during a ceremony, her sorceress stepmother banishes Shiori and turns her brothers into cranes, with the caveat that every time Shiori speaks, one of the brothers will die. In her quest to save her brothers and her kingdom, Shiori must place her trust in a paper bird, a dragon, and a boy, not to mention the magic she's always been forced to hide. Then another one for all our contemporary romance fans. Nisha Sharma, author of My So-Called Bollywood Life and a handful of adult romances, returns with a sweet and swoomy rom-com, Radha and Jay's Recipe for Romance. Radha is on the verge of becoming a dancer until she's forced to follow her stage mom to New Jersey and a new art school. Jay is the captain of the Bollywood Beats dance team, determined to make the most of high school and choose a successful career without breaking the family bank. When Radha joins the dance team, the two discover they can help each other out. For fans of Bollywood movies or cute love stories, this one is the perfect summer read.
And so I'm going to round them out here with A Lesson in Vengeance. So A Lesson in Vengeance combines three of my favorite things: boarding schools, witches, and an evermore aesthetic. Messy hair, burgundy lipstick, tweed blazers, whiskey cocktails and teacups, that sort of thing. It is also the second book on my list and the third book we've talked about today that features tarot cards in a major way. When this deliciously gothic novel begins, Felicity is returning to the remote Dalloway house, an exclusive boarding school for girls, after she took a year off following the tragic death of her girlfriend who died on the grounds. Felicity is reassigned her old room in Godwin House, believed to be haunted by 5 students who died on the grounds, and the kicker, these 5 students were also believed to be witches. Felicity was once obsessed with Dalloway's dark history, even joining a secret society, dabbling in magic herself, but she swears this year will be different. She's done with witches and ghosts and the occult. Enter Ellis Haley. Following the success of her first book, published at only 17, literary prodigy and eccentric Ellis Haley has decided her second novel will be about Dalloway's dark history, and she enlists Felicity's help. Soon the two of them are drawn into the school's dark history and disturbing present in a toxic cat and mouse game. This is sort of the East Coast cousin to Dark and Shallow Lies in its gothic tone, touch of the supernatural, and complex female relationships. It's extremely visual and reminded me of E.M. Danforth's Plain Bad Heroines, the new release The Mary Shelley Club, and it also has plenty of references to famous literary ladies like Emily Dickinson, the Brontes, and the aforementioned Mary Shelley. The whole book feels like an Evermore mood board, but if I had to pick one song, it would actually be Folklore's bonus track, The Lakes, if The Lakes was in a minor key and covered by Fiona Apple. And thus ends my Taylor Swift playlist. It
was perfect, Vicky. I will definitely put it together and share it on Twitter tomorrow. I think that's all the books we wanted to talk about. We also just wanted to quickly run through a bunch of upcoming virtual events in May and June. So first we've got TCAF, the Toronto Comic Arts Festival. It's always a good time. I definitely miss going to the Toronto Library because it just is so beautiful and has so many people, and it's always just a really wonderful celebration of comics. You could get amazing art prints and you could talk to all sorts of authors, and they're doing a virtual thing, which will be fun to check out. May 23rd is also the Montreal YA Festival. We have a whole bunch of amazing authors who will be joining us virtually, including Crystal Maldonado, who we didn't mention her just because her book came out earlier, but Fat Chance Charlie Vega is probably one of my favorite books of the year so far. And I'm really excited to see her present and show up on all sorts of panels. So definitely check that out if you're free and available on the 23rd. Then May 26th, we've got a virtual launch for E.K. Johnston with Baka Phoenix Books on Facebook Live. And if you missed that one, Evan, if you could skip to the next slide. Thank you. She's also doing an Indigo Instagram Live on May 28th. then for all you trivia fans out there, we are planning another trivia event for the end of June. It'll be a killer thriller theme. I'm not sure if I can tell you who the authors are yet, but you'll definitely recognize them.
Tell them, Sam. They're all confirmed now, right?
They are all confirmed, so I guess I could tell you. So we've got Vicki Grant, so make sure you pick up Tell Me When You Feel Something beforehand. We've got Ryan Douglas, whose book, The Taking of Jake Livingston, comes out in July.
And he's amazing, by the way. Really, really good.
It's also got a fantastic cover. I'm really, really excited for that one. And we've got the one and only Karen M. McManus showing up. So it's going to be a good time. Make sure you show up for that one. If you've never been to one of our trivia events before, it's super laid back. Don't feel pressured. It's okay if you don't get all the answers, because when Evan runs the questions past me, half the time I have no idea what the answers are either. So you are not alone, but it's always a fun time. And then finally, the event that I sort of teased earlier, Tanaz in conversation with the wonderful authors of Sisters of the Snake, who I'm not sure if they're actually here or not. I couldn't see if they were in the attendees list, but they are lovely, lovely people. I'm super excited for that because it's in conjunction with the Book Wardrobe, which is an indie bookstore in Mississauga. I live in Mississauga, so I'm always ready to just shout about it. And it's going to be really, really fun. I can't wait to talk all about fantasy and South Asian inspirations with them. I think that's about it for us. Vicki, did you have anything to add?
I was just going to say, this is your last chance for any questions you might want to ask us. You can put them in the Q&A and we'll check them out there. I say last chances if you can't tweet at us or message us on Instagram, which is always an option. But if you'd like to chat with us right here. Yes, Evan.
I was going to say, both Vicki and or Sam, there were a couple of questions about, I just answered them by typing them, but they're asking about either physical or e-arcs of any of these titles.
Sure. So I will say that we are printing very few physical arcs these days for a number of reasons. In some cases, we do have some, but we do often have e-galleys. The easiest way to do that is make sure you're signed up for NetGalley. That's an easy way for us to submit. But also make sure that Sam has your email and you can sort of ask her for things and we can sort of go that way. Unless, Sam, you have a better way that you want people to submit to you.
Nope, that's good. Feel free to email me. I do try and send out a list of available e-arcs once a season, which I haven't done fall yet, in case anyone was like, what about all these titles you just talked about? We haven't actually shared that list yet, but that will be coming in the next couple of weeks, so you can start reading it. Iron Widow is already up on NetGalley if you want to start giving it a read. There's like a 99.9% chance that we'll approve you if you just request it, so don't worry about that one that much. It's there and ready for you to read.
Sam, do you want to tell, there are a couple of questions about getting on the blogger list. Can you say who people should email?
Yeah, that would be me. So it would be sdevota@penguinrandomhouse.com. I'll just put it in the chat here. Hold on. Oops.
While Sam is doing that, someone here asked for middle grade recommendations. Middle grade is the love of my life, so I'll just add a few right here. So Kelly Armstrong, who I'm sure you know from her many, many books, has a middle grade series called A Real Guide to Monster Slaying or Monster Hunting. And her third book in that series comes out this spring, and it's really fun. It's one of the series we get the most consistently good reviews from adults and kids. Really great, entertaining stories. There's a new contemporary book called Alice Fleck's Recipes for Disaster. This is by Rochelle Delaney. It's a story about a girl whose dad gets on a reality TV show that's all about Victorian era baking. So it's got this like weird historical quirky bent, but also reality TV section. And she has to go, and it's like a father-daughter show, and she's deeply introverted and not excited about it. But while she's there at this like weekend where they're all dressed in like Victorian, I mean, if you're watching the Nevers right now, you're very into that style. And it is a mystery there as well. So it's got a lot of things. It's very fun. It's very light, which I think is really great. We have a recent Own Voices title, Canadian as well, called Peter Lee's Notes from the Field, which is about a Korean-Canadian family. It's about a boy who really wants to be a paleontologist, but because of his asthma, he gets kicked out of dinosaur camp. And he's sort of trying to solve the mystery of what's going on with his grandmother. It's a great intergenerational story. And then the other one that's been around for a while, but I just want to give it a great shout out, is The Barren Grounds. That is the first middle grade novel by David A. Robertson. It is an Indigenous Narnia. The second book is coming this fall. We just love Dave. We love his work. It's getting great reads from kids and adults alone. So lots of great middle grade who try many different genres, and we hope you find something you love.
Those are all excellent recommendations, Vicky. I think I've read all of them. I loved them all. One other book that I'd read recently was Mercy Suarez Changes Gears, and the sequel, Mercy Suarez Can't Dance. Super cute, very relatable. I spent the entire time feeling furious at the bully in Mercy's class because it just felt a little too real, but in that good way, in that like you authentically captured the experience of a 6th and 7th grader. So I would recommend those. And also I've been learning Spanish for the last few months just because I've been bored and had nothing else to do. And there's just enough Spanish in there that I felt like I was actually getting use out of my Duolingo owl, even though he's a bit of a bully. I'm just going to answer Jillian's question that I can see here in the Q&A. We will contact the trivia winner later this week. We're actually, as we said, we're recording this, we're putting it up on YouTube, and we might leave the trivia open for about a week or so afterwards, just to give anybody catching up a chance to enter as well. So we'll let you know next week who the winner is.
The winner, just because there's a question about the winner, because we imagine there will be a tie, the winner will be randomly chosen from the best scores.
All right, I think that's about it. We kept it to under an hour, which I'm quite impressed by because we talked
It's a miracle.
We talked about 20 titles, so good job, Vicky.
I'm going to pat ourselves on our back. Go Sam.
And that's it. Thank you all so much for coming. I'm looking forward to catching up with you all on social media, and happy reading.
Bye, friends.